We're live.
Wait, hold on. We're gonna do the list, the link, because so many people want the link.
Everybody wants the link.
Okay.
Everybody wants the link. Let's link up. XPIZZA, let's link up. Me and you, let's link up on XPIZZA. Live BBC One Radio. XPIZZA. Live, it's Billy Jones. BBC One. XPIZZA. You're listening to live to BBC One Radio. I'm your host, Billy Jones. This is XPIZZA dropping the remix. What are we doing today? We're fucking trying to just live. You know what I'm saying? Just live. One step at a time. Baby steps.
Are you gonna do an interview?
I'm doing an interview now, actually, with SAFCORE. Shout out. What are we listening to? Sounds nice.
Yeah.
Let me see. Swallows.
Alright, nice.
Are we on air?
Mixcloud.
What do we do?
We just gotta post about it. What are we doing today? Well, it's an hour of that and an hour of this. Hour chit chat. Hello. Here we are on a Friday. We're doing another one at XPIZZA. This is SAFCORE. We are with Billy Jones, the one and only Billy Jones.
Hello. XPIZZA viewers, listeners.
We're doing this.
Yeah, we're just doing it.
Yeah, it's gonna be awesome.
Live from the seaport. Pizza.
Can you guys tell me a drink?
XPIZZA. Yeah, water would be good.
We got you one. Sparkling, regular.
Regular. I don't know. My whole life I've been trying to drink sparkling water, and it's just not for me. It just isn't for me.
I was never really a big fan of the bubbles.
Yeah, me either. Everyone,
tell
I
if
feel like people are pretending.
I can't tell if it's because I'm Egyptian. We didn't have the bubbles yet. It's
Yeah.
like a new thing.
No, I hear you. You know, when I was a kid, I used to love Coke and Pepsi and Sprite, but I hated the bubbles. So what I'd do is I'd shake up the 2-liter bottle to flatten the soda,
Same.
and I would chug that shit like when I'd come in from playing outside. And then, I had sisters who would be like, Mom just bought the Pepsi and it's already flat. And I'm like, sorry, that's my shit right there. I gotta hit that actually, and I'd hit it right from the bottle.
People always thought I'm so weird for doing that. But
No, yeah, when I was in middle school, one of our classes to create our own business. I was an entrepreneur at a very young age.
Oh wow.
No, not at all, and I'm still not. But I created it was called Cosmos Super Skunk Soda. So I was creating skunked. I wanted it to be made without basically the syrup. It was like, so my idea was like, let's just skip the bubbles and just get like Coke with no carbonation. I drink that.
That's not available out there.
I don't know. That shit would be so good.
Exactly. I would be drinking it every day.
Yeah,
What
because
the
the
hell?
bubbles they hurt. I don't know. I think you people who ask for bubbles, I think it's just you think it's like a mature thing to do or something. It's like
Right.
like you're a grown up because you like bubbles now. Get the fuck out of here.
Totally. That happens to me at dinners, or people
Like,
like, oh, we just get the bottle of sparkling. I'm like,
still.
all right, well, he goes like $30.
You're like, yeah. Why do we start? Let's start with tap. We're in New York. We get tap.
Yeah,
Say tap.
exactly. Exactly. We're in New York. We drink tap. That's right.
Or we drink Pana if we're at XPIZZA. Shout out XPIZZA.
Shout out to XPIZZA for the fancy water.
Yeah, this place is lit.
You know, right? It's like,
It's beautiful in here.
thank you. Thank you. I'm very proud to be part of it. And
Yeah.
I love Cristiano. He's such a good, cool guy.
Yeah.
And Joe, Gio, who does the pizzas, is like super Italian, like nice person too.
Yeah. Legit.
But yeah. So when did you come to New York?
So I moved to New York 2002.
From where?
I was, I had to make a short story long. I was in school in Maryland, and then I kind of grew up on Long Island, part of my childhood, and played music with friends. Whenever we all went to college, college ended. We all wanted to play music. This is like 2001, and so I went home to Richmond where my family was living, and I was like, I got a job, being like the receptionist at like a video production spot, which was kind of what I did in college. And everyone was like, oh, he's gonna do it. He's gonna get a job, what he studied at school. And the whole time I was just like plotting my escape to do music somewhere with my friends. And then 9/11 happened. Never forget. We're down here.
Were you here?
Down here.
Were you around for it?
I was there. Well, I was at work. I was in Virginia, and all my friends were on Long Island. And like, everyone, whatever. My buddy's dad was R.I.P. like one of the first in and stuff, and like all that shit. So we were all kind of traumatized. So a month later, after 9/11, I'd quit my job. Me and all my high school friends were in a budget rental truck with all of our shit, driving across country to Portland, Oregon, with no jobs, no apartment, no nothing, just like driving. Like 4 of us just quit everything and just were driving to the west. So we moved to Portland. It took us like 2.5 weeks to find an apartment. We were like sleeping on this poor girl's like couch and floor, and we were just like, we'd look for a job for like an hour and then spend the rest of the day just like drinking in pubs and playing like pool and stuff, and just kind of like just striking out. But finally we found a place, we got a house, and spent like a year there making music and hanging out, and that's a whole other story. But then we got evicted.
What kind of music were you playing?
Just at the time it was like half improv noise and half like trying to sound like the Strokes, because the Strokes were super popular.
Wait, what year was that?
2001.
Oh wow. That's
So-
when I moved to the U.S. actually.
Really? Yeah.
15 years old. I was like,
Did you know about the Strokes?
yeah, obviously. The
Yeah.
guy with the glasses
Yeah.
and the nice haircut.
Yeah, they were so pretty and so hot.
Yeah.
Yeah, and like when we were driving from Virginia to Oregon, that's all we were listening to was like the Strokes. So it just dropped and everyone was freaking out.
Was that Skinny Pants 101?
That was the beginning of Skinny Pants. Yeah, it really was. And that was like Hipster 1.0 had just begun. And so we were in Portland for it. We ended up all we got evicted for noise. We were in a small neighborhood. Everyone left. At the time, I was like, no one, we can't move to Williamsburg. It's so played out. Everyone's moving to fucking Williamsburg. It's so over. But this is 2001. It hadn't even started. So we ended up kind of tucking our tail between our legs and all moving to Williamsburg in 2002. South 9th, Barrie.
But still was very industrial there.
Yes, it was Hasidic and industrial. The only place to get a cup of coffee was either North 7th in Bedford at this place called L Train Cafe, and then the Verb.
Wow, I actually remember that.
And then Verb Cafe was right where that mall is with the bookstore and the fucking. Or I had to go to Diner, the restaurant, and they would make me an Americano from behind the bar. That was my cafe when I first.
Wow,
went. Yeah.
Diner was around back
Before that.
That's amazing.
Yeah, they were the one of the first. But yeah, I mean, I feel like there's a class of people that kind of lived 98, 99 in Williamsburg. I feel like maybe that was the 1.0, and then I kind of came in on the heels of the 2.0.
Was any of these venues were around back then?
No, I mean I think at the time it was
Project Zero Robot? Was it?
I think that was there. It's hard to remember. I feel like around 2002, 3, 4, Todd P was definitely around.
Yeah.
And he was like doing things, and I didn't know if like Mr. Robot. No, that was a TV show. It was like Secret Robot, and then there was like Monster Island, and there was
Monster Island?
Yeah. I don't know if that was like. I don't remember if that was like. Put it in the comments if you know the answer. I didn't know if it was like a moving thing or if it was like because like Todd would just set up. There would be jokes, he'd like just pick a place and put a tarp up and like throw a mic stand and be like, that's like a Todd P show. There'd be like 2 bands from like Rhode
I should
Island.
have Todd P here.
You should get Todd P here.
Yeah. He kicked me out of the Japan Third show one time.
They
I did like a flip from.
You can't be doing that shit.
Yep. And I think since then he just remembered and he just doesn't want to talk about me.
He sticks to his guns, He's like a real.
I should definitely reach out to him and be like, "Hey,
what's up? I'm sorry."
Yeah.
Sorry.
12 years.
I actually
almost 20 years later. Hey, dude, I apologize.
The first show I went to when I got here, or early, maybe it was Clinic, this band from the UK, at Warsaw, which was the Polish club that actually still has shows in Greenpoint.
They're still around.
Yeah, and they were doing it back then. I got kicked out of that show for moshing.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, that was my introduction.
Wow.
And the first show I ever went to was at the end of Broadway, which is where Babies Are Right is now. But at the end of Broadway on the water, there was this place called Cafe Right Bank. And I walked in, and Ty Braxton, who's Anthony Braxton's son, for those jazzy listeners who know who Anthony Braxton is. Ty Braxton, who was in Battles later, who kind of got famous for having this one tune. But he was on the ground, and he had like 20 pedals around him, and he had like a microphone, and he was like making these sounds with his mouth and like looping it and then adding these drums. This guy's like a complete like savant musician, like crazy, like next level. And I was like, it was the first thing I saw when I got to New York, and I was like, oh shit, this is gonna be sick. I was like, New York is sick, and I've just been here ever since.
That's amazing.
Yeah, I came here. My friend totaled my car.
Oof.
In Portland. I think he was drinking and driving. He'll never admit it, but I'm pretty sure he drank a lot. And I would let anyone use my car. It was just a nightmare. The car, we call it poo car because it was just destroyed. But anyway, he totaled it. It wasn't worth $1,000, but the insurance company didn't get a chance to look at it. So somehow I got like a check for $2,000, which I basically used to pay for my moving to New York. And
$2,000 was a lot of money back
I've
then.
been living off that since. Yeah, it was. We got our apartment off Craigslist. It was a sublease. It was a railroad. Me and my buddy, who I worked at Barnes & Noble with in Richmond.
Nice.
Shout out Barnes & Noble.
Barnes & Noble's had really good books.
Books and stole some CDs from them.
Oh, they sold CDs?
They did, yeah. They had a music section.
Sick.
But yeah, I thought I was leaving the whole time, but I'm still here. I was like, yeah, I'll just check out New York.
Dude, you've done a lot since you've been here. You realize that.
Yeah, but it's just been like week to week.
Week to week.
So I don't know. To me, it's like, I don't know. Maybe this week it's over,
Wow.
It's just felt that way. I think that's what kind of, when I left Portland, I was like, Portland, you can just go there and you could just like float forever. It felt like, you could just drink coffee, have a project, sit inside, smoke weed, drink microbrew, and then like you're fine. But so like moving to New York, it was kind of like, dude, I need to get pushed around if I'm going to do anything.
Totally.
So I've just been kind of letting the energy kind of push me along.
You've done a lot for
Yeah.
just having the energy to push you along. So what was your first main project here? Was it?
Yeah, the reason it was music, doing music.
So music, and then how did you do Elvis was your first?
No, the first thing I did was, so I was playing in a band. We were started as Trashy Cameras, and then we changed our name to Medicine Hat, and then we changed our name and stuck with Other Passengers.
So what did you play?
I sang and played keyboard.
Oh,
and
wow.
guitar, yeah.
Nice.
So yeah, we did that for like 4 years, and as I was doing that, I was like, taking any sort of side job to like appease my girlfriend at the time or my parents being like, I'm gonna make it, I promise I'm gonna make it as a rocker, I just got to do this thing, you know, like just so I was like a substitute teacher, so I would like be like, you know, king of what was it, rock of what's it, school of rock or whatever. I'd like teach the kids, and then, you know, at night I'd go rock out or whatever. And I worked at like Oprah's Oxygen Network. I was like editing video for like a reality wedding show, just like, you know, bumping lines of Adderall, and then, you know, and then just like looking at hours of footage of like these women like planning their weddings and being like, there was like I'd have to like write notes for the editor. I'd be like, at 14:23, things got heated when they were picking out the flowers. My nose like dripping, wanting to die, getting at it. I worked with all these women. That's how I learned about like, you know, like Indian weddings, like, you know, just like hours of footage of watching people like get hennaed and stuff. And so I was there for a while, and then, you know, that burned out, and then so as I was playing in these bands, you know, we ended up, you know, getting signed to this small label in the UK, and like we kind of got to a certain level and just kind of fell apart. But as I was doing all of that, I was like, you know, I would always book shows for my you know, I'd come to the venues and be like, yo, I'd find the sickest bands in town, befriend them, and then get them to agree to play a show and stick my band right in the middle, and then bring the bill to the promoter, and they wouldn't have to do anything. They would just be like, "Oh, sick."
That's a great marketing.
Yeah, that's what you do. And
Whoever's listening out there,
that's how you get gigs. And so I did that, and I think that one of the clubs started to realize that like I kept kind of bringing these pre-booked package shows, so they loved my shit there because they were kind of an experimental venue. Like I would demand after my shows, we would like make a lot of noise on stage and break guitars, and I was dark, and I was like dying on stage. It was very dramatic. I was really, really going for it. There's videos online.
There's any footage out there?
Yeah, there's a few videos online. You could see that I was like emaciated, probably coked out of my mind, and like really believing in the dream of like, I'm gonna die out here for you all, the 40 people watching the show. And so, but I'd always make Thelonious, I'd make the sound people put on this like solo jazz record at the end of our set, because it was like this like go from this chaotic thing to this like, you know, chill like kind of insane vibe. And so they really admired that, and because of that, they were like, one of the guys who was the booker there ended up getting this disease in his stomach where he lost his voice, and he was in a band at the time too that, if you're listening, Bill, not the best band. They were called the Blondes, and they were like a Strokesian ripoff kind of thing. But this guy was like a sick composer who studied at Vanderbilt composition, like low key, like keeping that shit under wraps while he was playing this like 2-chord, 3-chord rock. Anyway, he had to go back to fucking North Carolina because he couldn't speak, he couldn't sing anymore. Years later, he started a classical label, and he's like crushing it. He's like done works with symphonies in Seattle and all this stuff. I ended up doing work with him later, actually right down here at the Seaport, the World Financial Center, 106 Point Never, shout out, did the thing. Anyway, but so yeah, he gave me his job, and that's how I started this whole thing. He was like, yo, I gotta leave. Do you want to be the assistant booker at this place called Chenet on Attorney in Stanton? And that was when the Lower East Side was like booming. With all the venues were on the Lower East Side. It wasn't like there was no Death by Audio or Kent or Glasslands yet. It was all like Mercury Lounge, Luna Lounge, Arlene's Grocery, Pianos, Chenet, Rothko, Fat Baby, all these places that people don't even know about anymore. And that was like, you could literally walk, every block had a music venue on it on the Lower East Side. And that was one of them. And so that's how, that was like my day job. And I was just still doing the band at night. And as I like kind of went along, I kind of realized I was better doing that kind of stuff, and the music stuff kind of winded down, and I was like, you know, kind of doing that stuff, and I ended up moving to pianos, getting into a fight with the owner, who I'm now friends with, of Chenet, and walking out and literally walking down the street and taking a job at pianos to replace this other guy who was in China writing a book, who later became my partner, and we we kind of found a spot and did Babies together. That was the first thing. We left pianos. We were basically trying to rip off pianos and do like a pianos, but like in Brooklyn.
Piano is so ugly from inside.
You don't like it? I mean, it had its time. I don't know if did you go in there in like 2003?
Yeah, it was very woodsy. It's like reclaimed
It's
wood
beachy.
and beachy, yeah.
Costa Rica, Puerto
Costa
Vida,
Rica.
Puerto Vida, man.
Yeah.
Vamos a la playa. Have you ever heard that song?
No.
Oh my God! Can we cue that up? It's insane, but it's like the lyrics just over and over. Vamos a la playa, oh oh. Oh.
If I
Vamos
played
a la
it,
playa.
Send it to me. I'll be like, oh,
Yeah, yeah.
oh,
I just recently heard it. It was just it's intoxicating.
damn. So Babies was before Elvis.
Yes. So Babies, yes, and
Babies is huge.
Babies is 2013. We
Yeah.
started that. Yeah.
No, but also the space. It's a big
Big.
space.
Yeah. Yeah. 4,500 square feet for
You
you
guys do
for your
brunch
architect's
there?
setting. We used to.
Not anymore.
Not anymore.
Now it's all
Food's a pain in the ass. Yeah, we have tacos though. We have
Oh,
these
that's
nice
not
tacos. We invited in this food cart during pandemic to come in, and so now they serve tacos, really good tacos at night there, and burritos and shit like
So
that.
what year did you guys open Babies?
2013.
Was Output around?
Not yet.
Really?
Output was like a year later.
Wow,
you
that's
can
very
fact check.
impressive.
You can fact check me, but I'm pretty sure. Yeah, the
Yeah.
North Brooklyn dance thing hadn't happened yet.
I'm gonna have Nick. Nick was the owner of Apple. Was a tenant of my studio, and he wants to come do this.
From Output,
Yeah,
who's doing? Is he a part of this new thing?
he did the
What's it
sound
called?
and the lighting. I can't remember what's it called.
It's like Supreme Trading or something, or like
Yeah.
Selection, something.
Yeah.
Yeah. So yeah, that hadn't. I'm pretty sure that hadn't happened yet. There was we kind of were the first venue, because like between Lower East Side, Mia Pianos, and then Babies happening, there was this huge, boom of like venues in Williamsburg that did happen when like the Lower East Side died, and I would imagine the Lower East Side died around 2009 or 10.
Right.
And then so for like 4 years or so, it was like Kent, 285 Kent,
Amazing. stuff.
Glasslands, Death by Audio,
Amazing.
Cameo Gallery, which I
Amazing.
feel like you had spent some time in. I mean, just all those places were
I actually
just,
spent a lot of time at 285.
yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I think a lot of, that was like, that's kind of like the, iconic, that's like the vision of what, like a DIY space. Like that was the death of DIY. It was like the last one. And like, Vice kind of built and destroyed Williamsburg, I guess you could say, like through like their ironic magazine and parties, like kind of branded Brooklyn to become this kind of hipster thing, and then in the end came in and kind of like got too big and kind of was the nail in the coffin of like that whole block, I would say.
Damn. Rest in peace.
Rest in peace, Williamsburg.
DIY Williamsburg.
DIY Williamsburg. But I hear like I hear people saying, like, I'm old now and I don't know about it, but like I hear people talking about finding warehouses and moving from warehouse to warehouse, and like kids are still throwing parties out there, and that's cool. I'm sure there's someone 20 years ago, me, that's like searching for that,
Right.
DIY experience. It still lives. I hope it still lives out there.
I'm pretty sure it's out there. There's a bunch of people doing it, but it's more.
Less band stuff though, right? Because there was like, do bands play these things? It's like this is more like rave stuff.
Yeah. No, definitely less bands.
Yeah.
Too much work.
Yeah, it is.
Too
yeah.
much like drums,
PA, sound
loading,
guy,
in
board.
and out,
Yeah.
Fighting over equipment. Now all you need is fucking USB stick. It's kind of
I
silly.
know. Yeah.
And people are like, it's like, they're like, damn, this guy's bringing records.
Yeah.
Look at him. This guy's the king.
Yeah. That's annoying though. I just don't know how to use CDJs yet. That's why I bring records. And it's like I find the songs on the record, so I know I got to play the songs on the records. But I'm sure I could just. Yeah, I got to learn that. You got to teach me this. I got to go
It's
USB.
so easy. It's like using an iPad.
Yeah.
So
I'm too
how
young
did-
for that shit.
How did Elvis come about?
So
Because that's how I get. Wait. I'm sorry. Who designed Babies?
So Jeff and John, these guys who had a design company called Hetcho,
Right, I've heard about them, and they were like the beginning of like the
Designy. Yeah. So
dark aesthetic-ish.
yeah, and I think
After Home Studios,
yeah,
which who did like a lot of like fancy like mustache cocktail bars.
yeah, and that guy from Home Studios actually helped us on the LA project.
Oh, nice.
That never happened. But anyway, yeah. So Jeff and John were hired by my partner Zach before I got there. So he had this vision for like, kind of like a cosmic diner,
Nice.
like a hip, like just like kind of like a diner in space. And they kind of, there's like a lot of repurposed things, and like it was, most music venues until then didn't really think too much about
No, it was
design
just- it
or
was
hanging
like
out. It was
a
just
lot
like
of, steel and reclaimed
yeah,
wood.
or just like a box
So ugly.
that's dark. Yeah, steel. Yeah. So like we took, it was this thing where it's like, wow, here's, Instagram was like still young, and like, and this,
They definitely did a lot of creative stuff in the beginning.
yeah. And this guy Chris designed the wall in the back with the iconic baby's wall, which is basically what I think the emergence of Instagram and this LED wall is what made people think that babies had been around for like hundreds of years, because it was like
Definitely.
you just saw it everywhere. People didn't realize that Instagram was like, gonna be something. It was just like you just see pictures of bands playing at this place, and then you'd go there, and it had this kind of tattered look to it already. So it was like, oh, this must have been here because I've heard of it. But so like by the first year, it was kind of already set as like a thing, So yeah, so we did that, and it went really well. The first 2 years, it was like all the cool shit, and it, and that was sadly when all these DIY venues were closing, so we were kind of bridging the gap between DIY and like corporate Live Nation AEG style stuff. So we were kind of like, kind of DIY, but it was like nice enough. It was kind of like, I compared it to this feeling of like having a party when you were a kid and your parents would go away, and like you'd have like a run of the liquor cabinet. Like we were just kind of kids who had this thing that we could just, fuck it, come play a show, and here's food and here's a drink, and like let's hang out. It wasn't really a business in the beginning, it was more of a party, but the sound was really thoughtful and the experience was good, and we made it a cool place for bands to kind of hang out at. For those of you who don't know, Safwat's not listening at all. He's just scrolling this entire
No, I'm
interview.
making sure everybody's watching.
No one's seeing
I
this.
send it to like a bunch of very important people. that are
Okay.
in the industry.
Cool. This is all off the record.
Man, you've been in my life like in a really weird way.
For 10 years.
For a really long time actually, because you were referenced in a lot of my work. You know what I mean? Like, you have to go check out Babies. You have to go check out Elvis. And I think one of what really got me into what I'm doing now was hearing about Isaac and his involvement.
Yeah.
And how like two friends came along and they got this bar that's like downtown in the Lower East Side to like redo this entire scene again, and like it gave a lot of people like opportunities to play shows, showcase their work and whatnot, and
Yeah.
etc.
Yeah, I mean, so Zach.
How did he meet Isaac, and how did that entire project come along?
So my buddy Zach, who was my partner at Babies,
I haven't met Zach. I should
Yeah.
meet Zach.
so he
You think we're gonna
he's kind of moved out of the music industry. He's doing swimwear now. We can talk about swimwear
wow.
after this, but he a lot of opportunity in the swimwear space right now. But he was a partner on a bar that he kind of came in that was called Aero Bar.
Oh, wow.
And so Aero Bar was where Elvis was before, and 85 Avenue A. And it was like a big, like not Pratt, what are the schools that are in the city, the art school? SVA, and like, where do all the artist kids go? The smart ones? What's the one? Cooper? All the Cooper kids?
Yes, Cooper, yes.
So it was like NYU, Cooper, and like, and they knew they could kind of get in with
you
it.
can get in for free.
You can get it for free. No, you don't need ID there. It was kind of lawless, and it was fun. I think people had a lot of fun at Aero Bar, but it just got insane and like drug dealings, and someone got stabbed on Halloween, and so it was kind of like becoming more of a headache for him than anything else, and it was like running that and then kind of having babies going. But like we were getting such a surplus of events and parties where it was like, so he had talked about trying, like him and his group were talking about selling it, and I was like, yo, why don't we just flip it? Yeah, let's flip it, rebrand it. And and I was obsessed with this wooden portrait of my friend Tennessee had this thing called the Deep End Club, and she was like kind of this LA scene girl, whatever, but she was nice, and she had this like novelty shop, and she had this sale, and she sold this like wooden lacquer like portrait of Elvis it's like this iconic kind of thing, and I bought it that day, and I kept seeing it on like eBay and yard sales, so like I'd buy it every time I saw it. So the office at Babies, there's just like 100 of these like wooden Elvises all over the place, and I don't even like listen to Elvis. Like it's like I do. I mean, I like Elvis. I don't know anything about Elvis more than anyone else or whatever. I think it just feels. I hated that last movie. We can talk. Yeah, the Baz Luhrmann thing. My girlfriend Natalie liked it, but yeah, but I mean, but just I don't know, just kind of like the iconography of it, or just like the image. Anyway, just this image. So we were. Zach and I would kind of just think of things and kind of roll with it fast, and that was the kind of the vibe at Babies too. We'd just be like, oh, let's do that. Okay, let's do that. It was like kind of like, nice. Yeah, and kind of like how me and you work together, where it's just like, and so we were in the office trying to think of a name to recall it, and it was like, I'm like, wouldn't it be funny if we called it Elvis? And
you're really good with names.
Yeah. Oh, that's too much pressure because we have to name something else coming up. But yeah, so
can we talk about that today?
We can talk about it today. But he was So yeah, we kind of came up with this idea, Elvis, and then he had this idea about like this thing called Elvis Guest House, which is actually, there is an Elvis Guest House, which is like a hostel. But then we wrote this whole story about how it was like, Elvis was in Kathmandu hiding. Everyone thought he was dead, but he wasn't, and he like built this bar, and then we wrote this legend about it. And actually, it was really funny as like Newsday reprinted it as if it was like a fact when like reviewing the bar. But I guess they just didn't read the press release. But it was basically Newsday said Elvis was still alive, and it was because of like this thing. But it was kind of like you just being playful and a joke, and and so yeah, we had one guy. We decided to do it, me and him. One guy was kind of designing it, and something happened. Like one of the design, I don't really remember. I think one of the partners of this design team we were talking to like suddenly died or something like that. Yeah, R.I.P. I don't really. I block out. It was a different time for me, but from what I remember, we had to kind of find a new designer on the fly. It was around New Year's, and we were taking over. We were like shutting the space down and opening it back up. And a friend of a friend just mentioned group partner Isaac that we should meet him. And Zach met him on New Year's Eve, and they just hit it off right away because Isaac is like a freak. So is Zach, and the ideas were just bouncing. And then I met Isaac then like 2 days later, and we were coming up with things. That's when we kind of came up with the flower wall just by like riffing and and he was just like crazy ideas and would just go with anything and had great vision, and he had just seen probably something that referenced that kind of blue grid thing. So he was really into that thing. He was making the boob pots. The boob pots were like kind of taking off at the time.
Totally.
And
so
so
worldwide, I think.
Yeah, they are. Yeah, he did it. And
was the gridded seating, was it painted?
Blue.
It was painted. No, but the grid.
Yves Klein blue. For those of you, it's got to be the. That was when I learned about Yves Klein blue. And it was like when pink, it was like the. What is that called? There's like a millennial pink or whatever. Like that pink color was the other walls, and we had like
Nice. But I also overheard like him and Christian, because how I got to know group partner and all this entire crew. I got a studio in that building on Bedford in Lorimer.
Oh, right on the park.
And then I was like I was in the same room as Isaac. I just had like a small little corner.
Where the pots were being made.
Yep. And that's how I met everybody.
And that's like where Bernie's is now, or like on the edge of the park, was it? Or no?
Kearney? Yes.
Like edge of
The
McCarran.
other side, yeah.
Yeah.
And that's how I heard about you and how the group partner did this Elvis guest house, and he also doesn't just do the pods. And I thought it was really cool that he also designs like bars and whatnot, interiors, and works with his friends, and it was very fascinating.
Yeah, it was cool. It was like, and it went off.
And I've been there a bunch of times.
It went off quick because it was like, there wasn't like a place on that street where people could kind of like feel okay going in. Right. And what was great about that place is if you walked by, you didn't know it was there.
Right.
So you had, if your friends were doing something there, you could kind of like be on the, I guess that's East Village. You could be in the East Village and be like, it was kind of like an oasis in the desert of shit of like people throwing up and like, you know, kids partying and bar crawling. Like you could, like we would open that place, and if there wasn't an event or a party, we would make like $30. Like, like no one would come. Like it was like, that was super dark. So we would had to program it every night with parties, and that's how we started doing. I mean, it's a really small space. It was almost like, you know, very small, but we like somehow managed to do live shows in there, too, until the landlord kind of.
Hey, Cristiano brought us a whole brand new needle.
Hell yeah!
Thank you, Cristiano.
Thank you, Cristiano. Yeah, we can even.
Can you, out of your, like, from top of your head, what bands that played there and blew up?
Elvis or Babies or both? Elvis.
Elvis.
Elvis. I was just thinking about it recently.
That played like 2 shows there, and the next thing this guy's like.
I mean, I don't know. I mean, I think we had some people come in and do sets that were already kind of big. Like, I don't think, you know, there's this female artist, Empress of, who kind of got big for a second, and I remember that was the first live thing we ever did. We did Empress Guest House, and I actually went to Guitar Center and bought a PA just to do these shows. And Bjork came, and that was when we were like, oh shit, like Bjork's here. And Bjork's made more appearances in New York since my time. Like there's like Bjork sightings is like it happens, but at the time we were like, oh shit, you know, like she was I think dating the guy from Triangle Records maybe. And they came together to check that out. But, you know, we had stuff like, I mean, there's like Arca DJ'd there really early. She was there. Kalela played a party there. Before that, you know, what else? Like Nico Jar. Yeah, I mean, just a lot of the, you know, like the Show Me the Body, Standing on the Corner kids and all those, like we're doing parties there. Wiki.
Love Wiki. Princess Nokia?
She did stuff at Babies pretty early, but I mean maybe she did. Yeah.
Grimes?
No, Grimes was actually Piano's days.
Oh wow.
So she played one of her first shows in the States when I was at Piano's, like 2011 or 12, and it was really bad. It was really bad. But that was kind of immediate. Once Grimes kind of hit, she was immediately like a thing.
Yeah, well, it's hilarious. Shit.
But
so
I just remember her having a bunch of chords. Like, she's a good producer, and like, so she's just trying to recreate all this stuff with all these like pedals and keyboards, and it just was like just
messy.
Messy, yeah.
Totally. That happens a lot.
Yeah.
So wait, what about the dance? Wait, I'm sorry. What closed? Why did you guys close up with?
So the lease was up. We knew going in that there was going to be 2 years left, and so it was kind of like a pop-up party, and then we were going to try and hustle our way back into the lease, but the relationship with the landlord was just not that great, and we made a lot of noise that, you know, and so we had figured out a way to look at a new lease with like kind of like these scarecrow style owners that we were kind of like working through, these like friends of ours that were bartenders that we were going to kind of partner up with to kind of run it, and we were going to kind of be behind the scenes, but the lease said like no live music, no dancing.
No dancing.
And like we were just like, okay, signing this now when that was the whole model, because if we didn't have those things, like I told you before, it was like, yeah, I regret it now because we probably could have done like, you know, like a listening bar and like eked our way into dancing
right,
and have it, but you know, because the person who has it now is like I think doing full-on dance parties.
Were you
and stuff.
aware that it was illegal to dance in New York? Till John.
Kind of. Remember Santos?
Yes.
So Santos is like the legendary spot for my generation. Where
Correct.
It was like, that was like
Shout
the
out to that
dance.
spot.
That was like the dance before. That was like kind of what I was trying to do with the
Right,
dance. Is like
actually.
copy Santos.
Man, that place was so ugly from inside.
Yeah, it was, but it was like fun ugly, right? I mean, I don't know.
I
just,
mean, that was the spot to go to all the fun shows.
and it was like it had this weird lawless vibe to it too,
Totally.
where you were like, wait. But I remember they had the
There's upstairs, there's downstairs.
yeah, and it was like they had a theme song that Andrew WK wrote, and he was one of the owner. You know, it was like,
Wow.
and then Spencer did this party in the basement that it was just a crazy space. It was one of those spaces like the dance where it's like, this isn't gonna last. This can't be. Like this is too like, this can't be. And but they had all those signs up that said like no dancing.
Oh wow.
And there's obviously because they wanted to have proof that they were telling people not to dance.
Right.
But it was like obviously there was a wink to it because they were having these like straight up like beats and space parties where it was like everyone's dancing and like Q-Tip had a party there and but yeah, that was kind of the model, and Zach was actually kind of like a small investor on that project too, so he was linked to some of those guys.
Damn, Zank has been around for a while.
Yeah, same generation as me. So
the Elvis closed. You guys both had babies.
Elvis closed. We went back to babies, and we were kind of searching for a way to expand in LA, and then doing other things and starting things, and then
Babies came up.
no, babies was already going.
I mean, sorry, the dance.
So that space came up on
Cindy,
Lafayette.
Cinderella.
Cindy, yeah. There's hats out there.
See?
Isaac, yeah. The
Because I
Cindy
remember
hats.
them like going in and out talking about it, and Isaac stole one of my friends from me to get him to work on that project.
Which friend?
Austin, my friend Austin.
Oh yeah, Austin's great.
Yeah, because Austin. Like,
Austin lives in Greenpoint now.
He lives in Ridgewood.
Oh, Ridgewood.
Yeah. Shout out to Austin. He's been my day one from ever.
Yeah.
And yeah, so he would come up, and I was so jealous.
Yeah.
It's like, damn, I wanted to be up there to hear about all the design info for the dance and whatnot. I mean, for Cindy.
Yeah.
But yeah,
Yeah. So that was.
he snooked me on twice.
What's that?
He sneaked me upstairs twice. When
Oh,
I was
yeah.
rolling around. Damn, that was like me, like being a kid and just like not a kid, but like literally 27 and trying to be like figure out who I am
Yeah.
and like really want to do this design thing.
Yeah. When was your what was your first?
Bossa.
Bossa was your first
Bossa
design
was
project.
my first commission. That's what I started getting it, and then
Were you doing that stuff kind of for people just out of like fun and passion, or were you like, I
Yeah,
want to do this, and you went after Bossa or something?
yeah, no, it definitely started as fun and passion, and I was like, wait a minute, I can do this for the music scene, and I still was like aligned with what you guys were doing, and
Yeah.
then coincidentally I met John, and I already like techno music, and
Yeah.
next thing he's like, oh, let's do a restaurant together. We did Juno together across the street, and then, but yeah.
And then you did Bossa.
Well, I didn't do the entire boss. I did
Yeah.
the DJ booth, and then he gave me the railing outside,
Yeah.
and then some tables. It was very small projects, but definitely boss is where I started. And then he gave me Juno, which was his first restaurant, and that was across the street. And then I did Magic City
Right.
with my friend Nancy and Rich.
And what year was that?
And I can't remember. I gotta look at my Instagram, but 6-7
Give or
years
take.
ago?
Yeah.
6-7 years ago. When you were designing
2016.
Actually, when you were designing, the
2016.
dance.
Yeah.
Because I remember Isaac, like that Isaac studio was my first, thanks to Christian, who's the one who gave us a $500 under the stairs like table. We can use the table saw and like.
You're like hearing like boom pops, like crack.
Oh my God, that studio, that building is iconic.
Yeah.
That building.
I remember Isaac was trying to turn it into like a club at the end.
Oh really?
Like
Oh, there's
art
no
club.
way.
Yeah.
Too much residential area there.
But yeah.
Yeah. So the dance?
Yeah, that was, I mean, I don't even know. It's too
Emotional?
too soon. Yeah, I mean, it's weird because it kind of ended like, right before pandemic.
I
actually.
must say it was one of the most beautiful clubs I've ever been
Oh,
into.
cool.
Yeah, man. Like you walk downstairs to this black room, to the other room that's like super white, and you just
Yeah.
let color like you're swimming in this color and fog, and like
Yeah.
can't really see anything.
So that was my big, and it's not that big of a idea because galleries are white or whatever. But for a music venue, I was like I kept thinking, because we had the babies thing is like, they have this iconic wall that you see on Instagram so much, and I'm just so fucking sick of it. Where it's like, it's like I can't see a metal band at Babies because it's got this cute wall. I can't see that a lot of things like just kind of don't. Like I love it and I think it's great too, and I've actually come to better terms with it just being it is what it is and it's awesome, but I was like, how do you follow that up, and it's like, and I was like, well, I want it to be, a space where it's about the people there and the artist color of the space and have photos look really good. So me and Isaac were really interested in like looking at like, TV footage of like bands performing in the 70s and 80s in TV studios where it was like the highlight green screen sometimes, but just more of like blank background. Like at one point we wanted to do all green screen staging and all that stuff, and like, which is a little too much, which is still a funny idea.
It was still when projection mapping was still
Yeah.
cool. It
Yeah.
was like,
And he had this idea of like the thing where it's like, where you have like three lights kind of like layer and they create those shadows where it's like the kind of like, you've seen that in like 70s like Time Life art books and shit.
There is
But-
like a really famous conceptual artist who he based his entire art career off that.
Those like light
Yes.
gradient
Yeah.
shadow things.
Yeah.
So I was just like, let's just paint the whole thing white, like make it all white. And everyone's like, you can't do that if a cell phone light goes on, the whole room's gonna light. And it was like, well, that's fine. It's like, let's see what it looks like. Let's like photographs are gonna be cooler. It's like you're gonna see more things, and like we can always turn off the lights. And and if you're in a basement, whether the walls are white or black, and if there is no light inside, it's
And sometimes
dark.
you have to take those risks.
Yeah, and it was a risk, and it was
You
like,
have to.
yeah, like that, and for people to walk in and have that first feeling of like, whoa, what, like, it feels like, what the hell, it's like I was influenced by like Sawdust in a way, but like they, spent billions of dollars on their design and have these like panels, and you feel like you're in like a spaceship or something, but it was like, it had that kind of austere white feel to it. But then talking about a place like 285 Kent, where it's like you take Sawdust and you take 285 Kent, and the dance kind of falls in between those because it's like a yoga studio, but it's also like, a DIY space, but it's like has this light rigging that's like kind of insane, and and like the spiral staircase that makes it kind of feel theatrical.
You go to the spiral case, and the upstairs was beautiful.
Yeah,
That
and then
bar
there's-
was
yeah,
so sexy.
yeah, and then it had the
blue
sexy
stairs.
set, which is probably going to be the same when they reopen it. Shout out Ash.
I don't talk shit.
No, yeah, good luck. I can't wait to see what happens with the space. But yeah, it's kind of heartbreaking. But yeah, it was cool. When the pandemic happened, it was like, all right, so now we got it, like the PTSD of like that whole project ending with this new PTSD layer, and then it was just like, everyone kind of had to deal with a lot of shit
Totally.
during those 2 years. So it was like I didn't even really think about that ending because everything ended. So then
Yeah.
when the world came back, I was kind of like, oh no, I don't have anything in the city to do stuff, and like that was so exciting. And now everyone wants to be in the city, and it's like New York's back, and it's so
expensive right now.
it's expensive,
Really.
and it's hard to do work. I have a
Yeah.
buddy off the record who's been trying and trying and trying, and like it's just hard to find a space and do something cool there. Anyone from like a noise thing to a money thing to a bureaucratic DOB liquor license, it's impossible. It takes a year to get a liquor license right now, so people don't want to sign leases, and
Exhausting.
it's exhausting. You have to be super rich, and the super rich people make stupid shit.
Right.
So it's like it's
Like
always
our
kind of been a
friends
problem.
Who's gonna take home some
It's
from-
always a problem.
Man, I have so much to say about New York City nightlife right now. I'm gonna stay.
Yeah, let's keep it in
Yeah.
keep it in the XPIZZA.
Yeah, let's keep it chill for today.
Yeah. But
I'm
hopefully
coming for you.
something else will pop up soon. I've got my eyes. I'm hustling. I'm just great. Week to week we'll find something. Throw by.
Should we talk about the project that we're working on?
Yeah, I mean we're doing. So when I was sitting around, I've always loved records and listening to records. I think everyone listened to a lot of records during pandemic, but kind of became an obsession of mine where I'd spend hours all day reading and watching things and listening and studying. So I, accumulated quite a collection and a vision to do. Like, I really want to, if there's any investors listening, I want to do there's this place called Cake Shop that was kind of cool. It was next to pianos, but they had like a record store. It was like a bakery and then like a live music venue downstairs. And it was cool, but it was it was very like DIY. Like the sight lines were tough. The record store wasn't really like a thriving thing. The baked goods weren't good. The coffee wasn't good. But like people loved playing there because it was like the guys were cool. And if you were like a scuzz rock band from Seattle, like you could play there and get the respect you'd get like in Brooklyn and in this kind of shitty Ludlow Street area. But like I think that that model in today's world, have a space where it's like cafe, but like records, but like serious records, and like hang out, and then like at night, downstairs have like a jazz club, and then later the jazz club turns into like a discotheque.
That's stuff that people that try to do too much, it never works out.
Yeah, I think that
it never works out.
All right, let's scratch that. So that's why
you think it works out?
I mean, I think there's a world where that's like separate businesses that are linked
in one building.
That I think a jazz club turning into a dance club is not too hard.
Okay.
That's like what Tonic used to do, kind of like.
Tonic.
Shout out Tonic. Everyone look up Tonic. Tonic was on Suffolk Street, and that was like Alan Licht, who was like a writer for like Wire magazine, and it was like kind of like this avant-garde space. There were no monitor wedges on the stage, but that's where Subtonic started, and some other like dance parties. They had this really small basement where they would do dance parties, and upstairs they would do like kind of like Thurston Moore style, John Zorn avant-garde, but then rock bands would play there too. But it had this really cool thing where it was like everything that came in there filtered through this like lens of, dare I say, like curation. But it's like having like a jazz club that can kind of do what Elvis did, where it's like can be electronic or avant-garde or whatever, but like when it default goes back to kind of like jazz, like this, it's like sexy, like not like an old boomer kind of tourist jazz club that like is kind of what there's places popping up. Ornithology in Bushwick is really cool. I went there recently. But yeah, I mean, I think when you say when you try and do too much you can't exist, but there's also this thing of like the catch-22 there is like you almost have to do too much to exist, because it's like we're talking about doing these creative spaces, and for them to work, we're just like at Babies, we just got this new this can be announced. This is an exclusive BBC One radio exclusive, but there's these this woman Britt has this like salad spot in Greenpoint that's incredible called Eden's that she started serving out of this bar during pandemic, and she's gonna like move into Babies in the daytime May 1st, and it's like that's gonna help us out with our rent increase a little bit, and it's, so now we're like a salad place in the daytime, and like maybe people will start working there, and it's like a co-working space that serves it's like finding ways to use your space all day long is like how these spaces are gonna the thing about the dance or like Santos is like those places can't exist because the programming is just like not for everybody, and they're like there's not enough money in drinking when you're doing crazy programming unless you're doing like TikTok bottle service places that like I don't even know what that means, like but you know what I mean, like it's like I don't like it's really hard out there in anything 2 miles away from Times Square is like you gotta really so I figure like a shortcut to that is having it be like a music compound where it's like the front room is like record listening, coffee, wine, talk to the date late at night if you're done dancing downstairs, and have it just be this kind of like thing. So I think it's out there, but I haven't found it yet, and I'm in the process of waiting to find it. I was like, I gotta get rid of all these records. I got too many records now. So I think the idea was to just kind of like start a small kind of record store, kind of like when Babies started, where hopefully it feels a little bit different than your average record store. And that's when I called you, because it's like, that's why we called Jeff and John, and that's why we called Isaac, where it's like, let's not just do the racks and and record heads might be like, oh, that's so lame, he's like trying to like conceptualize a record store, but I'm not. I'm just like trying to make it just like a place where we can have small quiet events, and a place where people can meet up and talk about records, and a place where you don't feel like you walk in and it's like some hungover kid like judging you the entire time, and just sort of like sexy, more inviting, interesting space to exist in. Elevated record store. And and the records I want to like sell have all been thought out,
Curated.
It's like, thoughtful, and it's like, and it kind of represents the type of music that I'm interested in. Hopefully that can be portrayed through the experience of being there, talking to people, customers that come in, and like finding out what they like and turning them on to new things, and I mean, I think that's like my life in music has been like booking new bands and telling people about it and like trying to help them get to the next level. And now it's kind of like me finding these old tunes and these old records and being like, hey, I want more people to know about this song or this old artist now, and like you can buy this record for $4 and it's fucking sick, and like you don't have to, and it's like you don't have to feel like you have to be some sort of record nerd to like get into like having a record player at home. It's just like it's a really fun thing to do, is like put on records and find something that you'd never heard of before, and have it not be through like an algorithm, have it be through stumbling into a space designed by Saf that's sick.
SAFCORE come design the entire city. Yeah, it's been a lot of fun working with you. Then, like, it's amazing, man.
Yeah, it's
worked pretty fun. It's been a lot of fun. It's been super easy.
It's gotta be
Very smooth.
Yeah, and that's the thing. It's like, it's
conceptually,
it can't be too precious, and it's just got and I a lot of stuff going on, but it's like it's more fun if it's relaxed and some of the decisions feel like they were kind of in the moment. And we talked a little bit about that, where it's like quick decisions made eternal, where it's like it just, there's a freshness to like going, oh, let's do that, and then committing to it and doing it. And I think that's like a problem I have in other areas of my life, where I can't like commit to things forever. So it's like, this is a good exercise in being like, oh yeah, let's put the wall there. We already rearranged the room 3 times, but it's like, I think
it's becoming really the perfect solution.
Yeah, the perfect solution.
Like every time I was looking at the blueprints today, I was like, wow, this is the perfect blueprint.
Yeah.
I'm really excited about it.
Yeah, it's interesting. It's interesting because like you design spaces, and for you to kind of approach this like smaller retail space, and it's like there's not a lot of design to do, but it is like even design comes down to like, you could design like 4x4 foot area to make it like you could do it a million ways. Thoughtful. Right? You could do a million ways, and it's like finding the right way to do this space is really interesting, because I also like it that I've spent so much time in record stores sort of thinking about what's wrong and what's right and what we could do, but I also wanted this kind of like fresh, sexy, like someone coming from a different angle to kind of collaborate with and give that free radical vibe. We just lost him?
No, I was gonna tell him that we're we're running behind 30 minutes behind.
I can do a short musical set. Yeah.
No, we're good.
But
we're always running 30 minutes late.
Oh yeah. But anyway, so yeah, it's more of an experiment working with you, knowing that you haven't done it before, which will make it more interesting and exciting for me to like see what happens, you know. And I think that's like the excitement of the whole thing.
So, tell us about the fun stuff you do.
In life,
Hobbies?
hobbies. I mean, it's really
Weird
it's
interest?
it's records.
Secrets?
It's basketball. I love basketball. I love records. I love comedy. I like laughing. Yeah, I'm like, for a nightlife person, I spend a lot of time watching basketball. I mute the game, and then I'll play records, and then I'll like look at my phone, and like that's kind of like.
Are you
at
betting?
night. What's that? No, I was betting, but I stopped. Yeah, when they had all that free money in the beginning, where it was like, they're like, here's $500 to sign up to fucking YouBet or whatever. I went through that rigmarole. I lost it all, and I have like, I ran into a kid on the street. And you could tell he was like deep in it because I was like, "Oh, did you watch the game? It's like NBA playoffs right now, so it's like high season for like gamblers and basketball heads." And he was like, he didn't talk anything about the game. He just immediately started talking about the parlays he had and like the bets. And I was like, "Yo, dude!"
Not even about the
I'm like,
game
"Dude, you
anymore.
are like, we're not even. You are like locked. Like, if you think this is like normal to talk about right away, like." I was just saying that was a cool game, but I'm glad that for someone who's I have quite an addictive personality. I'm glad that I didn't get bit by the gambling bug. But I think that I take bigger risks, man. Let's open a record store. That's like the
But
big.
your record store is gonna be a
Yeah.
safe bet because who you are, where you come from, you've been around
Yeah.
for so long.
Yeah, and it's like, and I've been,
Which makes like another thing, like there's a lot of people trying to open up these venues. It's like I was
Yeah.
talking about it with the guy that owns Output.
Yeah.
He was like, yeah, the market right now, there's too much supply than demand. Because so many people are doing the same exact things.
Yeah.
And it's like somebody inherits like 500 grand or something. They're
Yeah.
like, oh, let's open and do this, let's do that. And I had kids come to my studio and be like, oh, we want to do this, we want to do that, we want to do this. I'm like, yeah, but what's gonna make you stand out?
Yeah.
Who are you? Who's your scene?
Yeah.
We're like, oh, we threw a party at the cafe.
Yeah.
I have 25 friends, maybe.
Yeah.
I'm like, damn, dude, good luck.
Yeah.
Like,
Good-
best of
yeah.
luck for you, but
Good morning, good evening,
Yeah.
good afternoon, good night. Yeah. Yeah, I mean, I think that's what I saw a lot during the boom of when I was at pianos, and like there was a boom and these Lower East Side clubs were opening up, and you could just smell it when you walk in, where you're just like, oh, this is some rich dude, maybe not from America, who like tried to find some young kid to maybe kind of book this thing. There's like this
that's
friction.
so true, dude.
There's this friction between
So
the
true.
message and the concept of business practice, where it's like, I guess the artists aren't drinking for free, but like he booked the show and the kid wants it to be cool, and like the staff sucks, and nothing really works.
Wow, staff makes a huge
Staff
difference.
is the thing, and I think people figured that
Huge
out. Like
difference.
security and staff is like what that's what people.
Makes the place like a
Yeah,
home.
yeah. If
John
the
Barkley is really good at that.
he gets that shit.
Oh my god, like
Yeah.
lockdown. Like, he's
Yeah,
so
if you don't
good.
have if the first person you meet at a club is coming at you with like negative energy, that's it.
Yeah, it's done.
That's in
You're
your
right.
that's in your chest until you
Yeah.
wake up the next morning.
Wow.
And so like I feel like we had Anna, have you met Anna? Yeah, she was a legend from Santos. And she basically ran Babies. She was the face of the thing for years, and
Wow.
did stuff at Elvis too, and started her own company, and now is like doing tons of security shit. She's amazing, but yeah, that's the number one thing. It's like the people, not the place. It's the energy, and that's why it's like, I'm kind of getting to this point where it's like I kind of want to like take over a terrible space and see if we can like change it with just energy of people. Where it's like,
Definitely.
do we need to financially resurrect something with design? And not to criticize design, because I know that's what you do, but it's like,
No,
like
still,
where
doesn't
it's like,
matter.
why don't we
I've
just
designed, I've designed restaurants on clubs that didn't success because it didn't have the people wasn't there.
Yeah,
the
and it's
vibe
like-
wasn't there.
yeah, but it's like,
Like the one guy,
yeah.
my one client was like, remember Hope Lounge?
I think you showed me pictures.
It
Yeah,
was like a famous bar, like early that era,
Yeah.
beginning of Williamsburg boom.
yeah,
Took it over, and then we spent tons of money, got like a top chef, whatnot, and then kind of like broke up with me right after the opening.
yeah,
he just wanted to run the business, and the place fell. If like failed because it didn't have a vibe or a soul
Yeah.
or energy. Like you're not gonna go there and meet like, oh, Seth will be there hanging out with his friends. No, like he let the kid kind of let me go, or like kind of broke up with me. Like we're still on good terms, but you know.
Yeah.
Next thing, the chef is gone. Next thing, it's just him and a bunch of his friends. Yeah, that's troubling.
Yeah, and then and then it's like, okay, let's just hop back into that space and get some good people in there and see if like
Oh, I wish
they
that
can just
happen.
do that, and
Yeah.
it's like, it's been the thing where people pop up parties and restaurants and stuff, and those places can become legendary, and it's like they're not designed to be clubs, but it's like if the right people are coming there and it feels
Yeah, that's true.
weird, there's like
So
this
true.
like you're partying somewhere that doesn't
So
feel like
true.
you should be partying. So I think that's kind of informing financially in sort of a like class structure way where it's like, do I need
Social currency
Yeah.
is have no price.
Yeah, so why put $4 million into a place to like
That have no soul.
that has no soul?
Yeah.
Anyway,
Thank you. That was amazing. That was one of the most rich conversation I've had here yet.
wow,
Yeah.
$4 million conversation.
Whoever have $4 million.
Affordable. This was an affordable. I think it's more affordable. But yeah, I could talk about this a lot. I don't even, it's fun to talk about this stuff to people that have, kind of had to navigate through some of the bumps and the successes.
How did you guys
and-
survive the pandemic?
I mean, it was interesting. I mean, a lot of people did a lot of good work that I somehow became affiliated with just because Chuck Schumer's office like recommended that they did like this press release in front of babies. So there were these lobbyists, the independent New York NIVA, New York Independent Venue Association, that national independent they created to kind of push this bill, the Save Our Stages Act. I think you heard about it.
Yes, I.
And so they were trying to push this thing to the floor, to get the bill passed or whatever. And the day that they were making the push, Schumer did a press release in front of babies.
Nice.
And it was me, James Murphy, and Chuck Schumer all wearing masks. And it was like right at the heart of Black Lives Matter. And there's this like photo of like Schumer on the ground with a mask, with his fist in the air, and like me with like, standing next to James Murphy with a mask on. And I was like, if someone were to show me this picture 10 years ago and be like, tell me what's happening here, I'd be like, what the fuck is happening here? And so that was like a crazy moment. And there was no one at the press release. He went on James Corden that night, that like late night guy, and like talked about babies and the bill or whatever. But that bill got passed, and luckily, I think that helped a lot of clubs, sustain and like the PPP stuff. And we just kind of kept our eye on all the sort of grants and government funding, and kind of stayed on top of that. And we're able to weather the storm, thank God, and come back, swinging, really. I mean, we came back really strong, and
Amazing.
babies had like probably our best
Amazing.
year since
Wow.
year 2 last year.
That's
and,
amazing.
And I feel like, a whole new generation of kids have discovered it as like a new place, which is like 10 years in New York. That's like,
Speaking of which, I was
Yeah.
really thinking about it. Like, how me growing up and getting into all this, and like working for Output, and Output letting me do whatever the hell I want in there, and like hanging out with Isaac in the studio, and like getting to know you.
Yeah.
I wonder what's gonna come next.
yeah,
Like the next generation of me and you.
I know.
It's gonna be exciting.
Yeah. Let's just keep gatekeeping until, let's just keep pushing them. How long can we keep these gates up? No, I know. No,
I'm
it is.
happy to let the right people in.
No. So am I. And you have to. And it's like, that's the whole thing about, that's what's funny about, getting old in a thing where it's like, becoming that guy where it's like, oh, you guys weren't around the LES in 2005 when it was really great. It's like, I've never been that way. It's like, the music being made right now is like the best music. Like, I know that. Like, the kids making shit now, whatever. If it's AI, whatever, it's gonna be fucking sick. They're gonna make cool things. It's never like, oh, I like shit from a certain era, and that's just my preference or whatever, and what feels good for me.
Also, rock music is doing a comeback.
Yeah, I mean, it's not going to go anywhere, and it's just not a thing where it's like, I get excited when I see these kids like do work and put things together, and there's a lot of people making shit happen in New York right now, and it's like, and it's not, there's room at the table for the next gen to come up and start the party.
Thank you so much for being here.
Thanks for having me.
Dude, I'm excited for your set.
All right, let's
Are
play some music.
you down to do like a 45?
I could do 30, 45. I'll just play some tunes so I'm going to play some songs that in the past month that I've heard on records that I found that I was like, oh shit, I want to hear that song again.
Nice. You've heard it first with Billy Jones.